Good. Hey everybody, I am Daddy Sam, and this is episode 55 of A Touch of Gay for April 19th, 2026. Today we're talking about sobriety and pride reinstated, two big topics in my life this week. And every week I like to check in with our podcast here, and it's my weekly opportunity to sit down with you, be myself, share what's on my heart, what's going on at my kitchen table. It's why this used to be called Kitchen Table Talk. We've recently changed the name to A Touch of Gay. So if you've been with us for a while and you thought, well, something's different, that's what it is. We are now A Touch of Gay. Everywhere you look, our website, our social media, our YouTube channel, etc. Just kind of an automatic name change occurred out there. This is the time where I get to sit down and tell you what's going on in my LGBTQ plus fishbowl, as well as the one that's out there in the world. And I always like to start with the daily inspiration that you can find every day on our social media. Handle A Touch of Gay Pod on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. We do not do the X because the X is bad energy. It just is. And today's daily inspiration, after getting sober, it was a whole new world. This is part of a larger quote from Dave Becker. The gay world is intertwined with drinking and drugging. After getting sober, it was a whole new world. He is talking about the fact that when you live in the world of drugs and alcohol, especially in the LGBTQ fishbowl, it's a scene. Everything that is publicly facing and forward out there as the scene, as it were, for gay men in particular, but people in the community largely, a lot of it has to do with bars and clubs and dances and raves, and alcohol is ubiquitous, and there's a lot of subparts of the scene that are drug fueled. If you've come up in that scene and that was what was always normal, the prospect of leaving that is very daunting. You think, well, what's life going to be like after that? And what he's talking about is that after you get sober, you find out that there's a few things that maybe you never thought of. And one of them is there's a whole new world that is presented to you. And you can also find that once you're able to get sober and get your shit together, so to speak, that you can re-enter the scene in a lot of ways and still participate in the scene without having to use drink or whatever those addictions were. I chose this particular topic for today's inspiration because of the fact that this weekend I am celebrating 9 years clean and sober. And by that I mean I don't drink, I don't use drugs. I used to, a lot. To quickly touch on the overall picture, I was a blackout drinker. I started drinking when I was young because when I was young, I was that kid, I was that young adult that was made fun of, that learned how to hide my sexuality and learned how to hide who I really was inside. It was a tough slog to be made fun of all the time, to be made to feel less than, and I believed it. I felt less than. I felt weird in the sea of my peers. And so what I learned was you hide that, you keep it inside, and you're constantly on edge, trying to constantly keep people from seeing who you are. And that's no way to live as a baseline. As I got into my teenage years, I discovered drinking and drugs made that all go away. Oh, it worked so well. I suddenly felt comfortable with everybody around me. I didn't care what they thought of me. I felt comfortable in my own skin when I was able to drink, and I smoked a lot of weed and I did a lot of other things. It just worked very well as an elixir to help me get through the social life out there that I had once been completely intimidated by and scared of. The problem is that I'm one of those people that has a physical and mental and spiritual allergy to these things. I have an addictive personality, and I quickly found that there was never enough of this stuff. And I began to use it as a way to cope with these situations. Whenever I would go to a social gathering, I had to be warmed up a little bit before I got there to feel comfortable walking into that space. I had to pregame before I went to any big gathering of work people, family in some cases, and especially the social world. As I later came out and started going to the gay bars and the clubs, that was very intimidating to me, even though that was my tribe. I just had to have alcohol to get through it. And I'm a blackout drinker. And what that means, if you don't know, is that when I drink, once that switch is turned on, it doesn't get turned off automatically. There is no point at which I say, I've had enough, or I don't want any more, or there's a glass half full, I'm going to leave that and go home now, or I have to drive. There was never a reason that got in my way of having more and more and more and needing more. What happens when you drink that way is eventually your brain shuts off and stops recording. I found myself over many years of my lifetime, on and off with drinking, waking up not remembering what happened the night before. And after I came out and I was hanging around with a lot of gay men, I found myself waking up in people's beds that I didn't recognize where I was, how I got there, or who they were, or maybe they were at my house. I invited people over, people that I didn't know, and where's my money, and why is my bank account empty? I don't remember spending all that money last night, and on and on and on. Or I forgot that I had to go to work today. And no matter how much I tried to control it and to get back to a controlled drinking, I just couldn't. I would leave my credit cards. My funniest story is that I would lock my credit cards and my bank cards in the filing cabinet with a key, and then I would only put $20 in my pocket before I went out for the night. And that didn't work, surprisingly enough, because I would find some way, somehow, to end up spending money more than I had. I would manipulate people to give me free drinks. I would borrow money from people, and I would wake up the next day still having to pay for a night that I hadn't intended to. It was just a vicious cycle, and I couldn't stop. No matter how many times I would start the night saying, I'm not going to let this happen again. I'm going to try beer instead of hard liquor. I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to drink water. I tried everything, and I just could not control it. And I finally came to a point in my life where my life was crashing and burning very quickly, and my finances were in a mess. I was 100% self-employed at the time, and I was crashing my business into the ground because all I wanted to do was drink all day and use drugs and go hook up with people. And, I don't need to work afternoon. I can quit early today. And it just became the cycle of never ending, starting the day and saying, I'm going to work hard today. I'm not going to do this today. And waking up the next morning, having it happened all over again. And I was confounded as to how I got into this place. And I literally couldn't stop. I was drinking so much toward the end that I was physically getting sick. And I would go to the doctor and say, I can't keep food down. I've got a hole in my stomach and it burns and I've got all these problems. And the doctor would just shake his head and he would say, well, what do you think's causing it? And I'm like, I don't know. That's why I'm here. And so I had all these medications that were designed to help control my body and my digestive system. And I couldn't drink enough to get drunk because my stomach and my insides were so sore from all the alcohol that I would put 2 or 3 drinks in me and I just couldn't put more in because my body would reject it. And then I was angry and upset and demoralized because I couldn't get a drink. I couldn't get drunk. And so I would try to let it go for 3 or 4 days and let my body heal. And then I'd try to drink again and it was right back. Finally, a friend of mine who was watching all of this called me on my shit. And by that time, I had been coming to the realization that I needed to change something. I really needed to change something. I wanted to change something because I wasn't happy with myself. I had gone a long distance in my life to my mid-40s to come out and start my life over again the right way. And I was doing it wrong. I was able to find a program for myself that worked. And I dove in. I did everything that was asked of me. I followed the directions. I gave myself to it. And one of the most important things that I watch out there as somebody who continues to participate in the recovery community and help others is that if you're somebody who is thinking about getting sober or you want to get sober, or maybe people are telling you you need to get sober, the key to making it work long term is you have to want it for yourself. I wanted it so badly for myself that I was willing to change. I was willing to give up a lot of the things I thought were important, where drinking and using drugs were built into. A lot of that was the scene. I thought I had to be drunk and using drugs to be part of the scene. I had a group of people that I ran with that were all drinkers, that were drinkers to my level, that used drugs to my level. And those were the people I called my friends. One of the first things I was told by other people who had been sober for a while was that I had to get another crowd of people to hang out with, at least for a while. When I made a decision to quit drinking, I tried for the first week or so to go hang out at the bar and have a Coke, and that just didn't work. Because what I realized very quickly is the people I used to hang out with weren't very much fun unless I was drunk or drinking with them. And they wanted me to drink with them because I wasn't very much fun for them either. It just became very apparent to me that my intentions for going there were not in the right place. And so I gave myself to sobriety, and I followed the directions, and I did a lot of work on myself. At some point, I had to find therapy to deal with some issues that I had about just how my life had gone and what had gone down and what I had to do to try to repair those things and learn how to live in my own skin comfortably. And it took a lot of work. It takes a lot of work. And the longer you stay sober and the longer you do the work, whether you're in a 12-step recovery program or some other program, if you apply yourself to those things diligently, you will constantly be peeling the onion. You will constantly be finding new things that pop up and you discover you have to deal with. And for some people, there's a lot of wreckage out there that has to be fixed. There might be financial wreckage. There might be legal wreckage. There might be family, friendships. I created some professional wreckage for myself in the industry that I was in. And even though it was somewhat isolated, there were a lot of reverberations in my peer group that caused me a lot of long-term damage in terms of opportunity, in terms of financial, and they've never really come back. But the good news is I was able to learn how to approach what I do for a living in a new way. I was able to approach how I build friendships in a new way. And I was able to learn how to approach having fun and being my own self. You can see I'm being myself if you're watching this on YouTube. I have been able to re-enter the scene, having gotten past the temptations to drink or use drugs, to a point where I can be back in the bar setting. I can be in a sex club. I can be at a sex party. I can be at a leather event. I can do anything I used to think I had to be drunk or high to do back in the old days. I can do it perfectly sober, and I'm not missing anything. In fact, I'm gaining more because I remember it. I'm present. And if you've never had a deep sexual experience and being 100% present and connecting in a way that is absolutely amazing, you should try it. Because in hindsight, what I found is the drinking and the drugs provided a barrier to connecting with other people in a meaningful way. One of the great benefits is that having done the work and slowly putting my shit back together, I have the bandwidth now, not only to be a better worker in my work, in my job, in my profession. I have the bandwidth to be a better partner for my husband. I have the bandwidth to be a better friend. I have the bandwidth to help people out of genuine desire to help them, not out of personal gain. I have bandwidth. I have spiritual bandwidth. I have mental bandwidth. I have physical bandwidth that I never had when I was using and drinking. So the bottom line is, if you're somebody out there who is able to drink or casually use drugs and it doesn't cause you harm, that's great. I envy you in a lot of ways because I'm not that person. And I know a lot of people who are not that person. I have no problem with that at this point. I've gotten to the point where I can be in the clubs, I can be in the bar around people who are drinking. I don't look at it. I don't notice it for the most part. I smell it once in a while. If I go to get close to a guy that's been drinking, you smell like, I can tell you've been drinking. But it's not an issue where I'm going, gosh, I wish I could do that. Because I just don't. I am just as happy being there and connecting with people and enjoying the space. And I'll finish with the fact that one of the things I found out, especially in the leather community where, as you can see, I'm part of that. When you go to big leather events around the country, or you go to leather events at your local bar or your local club, you will find that a lot of the leaders in that community are actually sober, or they are not heavy drug users, or they're not heavy drinkers. And that's what I have come to find out. I have gotten to be friends with many men in the leather community who are leaders in the community, that are pillars in the community, not just regionally, but maybe nationally, they're all sober. And there's a reason for that. While the outside looks at these communities, these leather and fetish and kink communities, as a sea of drugs and alcohol and iniquity and perversion, the stark reality is that most of the people that are the core of those groups are recovering from alcohol or drug addiction, or they're sober, or they never were an alcoholic or a drug addict because of a lot of reasons. But you have to have bandwidth. You have to have money. You have to have energy, and you have to have your shit together to be able to participate in all these things generally. And people who are addicted to alcohol and drugs and deep in their addictions, they don't have any of that. I didn't. So yeah, I just wanted to share that with you because it's important. It's not about me so much as I just want to show people out there that there's hope. If you're in the place of hopelessness, there's a way to get help. And I'm not going to tell you what they are. You can Google. There's plenty of 12-step programs out there. There's also professional programs out there and other types of recovery programs that you can dig your teeth into that can be quite helpful to help you not only stop the madness, but rebuild your life. And you deserve it. You deserve it. So moving on, I want to talk about something hopeful. Politics. The pride flag has been reinstated at Stonewall. Yeah, it's a little victory, but it is a victory. The National Park Service will restore the pride flag at the Stonewall National Monument in New York after a settlement was struck between the Trump administration and a group of nonprofit organizations local. The administration had originally ordered the removal of the rainbow flag from the first national monument dedicated to the LGBTQ+ community back in February, citing a policy that restricted non-government flags, which we all know is bullshit. That's bullshit. The Stonewall National Monument was first designated by President Barack Obama in 2016, protecting the Stonewall Inn in New York City as a historic site, becoming the first U.S. national monument dedicated to LGBTQ+ history. So there's a lot of pieces and parts to why this went down the way it did. This is a victory for us. The court got involved, a settlement was made, and the flag is flying again. It's flying differently, but it's flying nonetheless. So this is just a story. I like to point out things that are good because we need the hope out there. And this decision will probably also bleed over to other things going on out there in the future and how hanging the rainbow flag at certain types of places will go. So yeah, I applaud the people in New York that fought back against this and went to court. Victory, victory, victory. No matter how small, is always good. In leather news, last week, as we discussed last week, I got a chance to go to the Mr. Anvil Leather Contest here in Phoenix, Arizona at the Anvil Bar, which is the haunt bar I used to hang out at when I was drinking all the time for the Mr. Anvil Leather Phoenix Contest. And this year's winner is Blue, an indigenous leatherman of the Dine and Hopi tribes. And I hope I said that correctly. If I didn't, somebody can comment down below. He flags red. He's very sex positive, and of course, he's a music lover. I happen to know him just a little bit. I don't want to say how well I know him, but I know him well enough. He flags red. Beautiful person. I congratulate you, Blue. You did a great job. And just what I saw on stage and just watching you over the last few years here in the community, you deserve it. And he will get a chance to go to IML next year and compete. The person who stood down this year, Mr. Anvil Leather 2025, Ben, he will be going to IML this year. It's always the next year you get to go. If you want to follow Blue, his Instagram handle's right there on the screen or it's down on the show notes. If you are listening to us on the podcast, follow him, Blue by Night at Instagram. Handsome fella. And our event I want to talk about this week is something a little bit different. It is the Baja Bears Bear Weekend. It is May 29th through the 31st. That's Memorial Day weekend in Mexicali in Baja California. Now, Mexicali is just south of the border. It's a border town. And it's about a 2-hour drive from San Diego and about a 3 or 4 hour drive from Phoenix. If you're from LA, probably 3 or 4 hours. And I'm just throwing these numbers out there. If you live in the west or the southwest, this is kind of a different type of event to go to. It is a 3-day weekend. Friday, there's an underwear party at Porky's Show Center. Saturday, a pool and foam party at Rancho Arroyo Hondo. On Sunday, there's a tour of the Barrio Chino, which is a village in Mexicali that is a Chinese village that is just filled with all sorts of fun stuff, bars, restaurants, and culture. And they're actually just planning a day to go do a tour there and look at some of the secret haunts there. It sounds like fun. And then Sunday, fetish room, farewell gathering. It looks to me like it's not quite as structured as some of the big bear and leather events that you go to where it's all at one hotel and everything's got a schedule. This looks like a relaxed, fun time with a lot of the brothers from Mexico. And they're beautiful, I think. I happen to love Latino men in a way that's probably, well, I married one. They're beautiful men. They have a beautiful culture. What can I say? It's not a fetish. It's just a love that I have. And so especially bears. Their handle is on the screen right there if you're watching this on YouTube, and a link to their Instagram and Facebook is down below in the show notes. They don't have a formal website that I was able to find. And on their Instagram and Facebook, you can find a link that will lead you to the hotel. This isn't an event that's made and put on a platter like some of the other events where everything is handed to you. Here's a schedule. Here's your swag bag. You're ready to go. This is something that's a little bit more informal. You just have to do your homework, but it looks like a lot of fun. Looks like a lot of fun. I will be at IML, so I won't get to go. But if going to Chicago is too big of a haul for you, this is an option. If you're down in the Southwest, they could be kind of fun. Yeah. And with that, that is the end of our episode today. atouchofgay.com is our website. You can follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. We don't do the X because it's toxic. A Touch of Gay Pod is our handle on all of those, including YouTube. You can see YouTube right there. You can watch us. If you're watching us, you can see me. Today, I am wearing my Mr. S leather bulldog harness and my matching armbands with red piping because, yes, I do flag red. And we can also be found on all of the major podcast formats out there, wherever you find your podcast. Yeah, so if you want to leave a comment, I invite you to leave comments. We want to do some user comments next week. Drop those down below. If you're watching us on YouTube, we do monitor our comments, so it may not be seen right away. And if it's angry, trolling, hate, it's not going to get approved. Sorry. You can also send me an email, daddysam@atouchofgay.com. And lastly, you can hear a podcast every Monday at 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time on gayphx.com, gay streaming radio station based in Phoenix here. They have news, content, and podcast interviews, things like that are all day, every day. And it's something that even if you're not in Phoenix, it's very entertaining. A lot of music that is custom made just for our community. Probably a little bit of AI there, but some of it's pretty good. And there's that. So I love you all, and I'm very proud and grateful to be sitting here today, bringing my genuine self to you, and I hope that you get to do that too in your life. If you are watching us on YouTube, you can see our latest video right there. Better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel right there. We need the subscribers to really get this off the ground, folks. And if you're on the podcast, please follow us there as well. Either way, stay tuned.